I've been out of the loop with CERT for a while as far as the refresher training, my age and everything. And I have mobility problems now, but from what it looks like, has the fire department dropped the training? Has it become more private now or what?
At least in LA City, it's not that case. The fire department will continue doing quarterly refreshers, but we have a pretty much a brand new CERT unit, new CERT captain, several new instructors. So they're coming up to speed on things as we come out of COVID. What we did during COVID was we actually realized the need and we started setting up our own unofficial drills and exercises. And we're keeping with that. We're continuing to do the monthly drills. September, we didn't have a drill because we were supposed to have an exercise second Saturday of September, and that fell through due to concerns about rain. In LA, if it rains, it's even if it's just a drizzle, panic inducing and people freak out. So we postponed that exercise to October. And that's actually gives us a little more time to plan it and set things up. So that's a good thing. And that's actually going to be a full functional exercise where some of the steps you'll see in this presentation, we talk about deploying on the damage assessment teams and the incident response teams. That exercise in October is going to show all of it. Typically, when we do a drill, we either do a damage assessment or an incident response team drill where we're sending out only those teams. You already have, for a damage assessment drill, you're going out and you're finding the incidents, reporting them in. For an incident response team drill, those have already been reported in and you're being deployed to specific incidents. With the exercise in October, we're actually going to stand up the staging area, deploy out the damage assessment teams. They'll report in the incidents, and then staging will need to figure out where they're sending their incident response teams to based on what's been reported in. So this is the first time we're going to see all of the steps in place, and it should be really good, hopefully.
Have you had any comment I live in the San Fernando Valley. Has there been any activity of people, or is anyone here maybe from the San Fernando Valley? And I guess.
Yes.
Oh, hi. Carol?
Yep, that's me. I'm
Yeah,
in
hi.
the valley. I don't know what you were going to finish that sentence with, so please do go ahead.
Oh, I was just curious, what area do you live in? I'm in Arleta.
Not too far away. I'm due west of you. I'm in North Hill. Well, it used to be North Hills here. Now it's Granada Hills South now.
Oh, okay. They changed the name. I remember when it was called Sepulveda over there.
Oh yeah, it was Sepulveda, I think, when I moved in.
Oh, okay. Well, great. I'm glad that you're here in the valley because, most of the time I was trying to catch these in the past, and I had conflicting things here I couldn't attend before.
Well, I see in the chat there's at least one other person, Georgia, who's here from the valley. So yeah, there are a handful of us maybe, and more as the meeting goes on. So, and we're all LA, so we're here. So whatever happens anywhere in LA, we're here.
Yeah. Well, I joined up with this way back, I think it was 1989 when it started.
Robert?
Yes.
Just as an aside, I just thought it funny when each of you was talking about what your areas were referred to earlier. I was going to say, I grew up in Arleta when it was called Pacoima back in the 1950s. I used to play on what is now the 5 freeway when they were piling up the earth to raise it. We used to collect rocks on from the piled up earth and race down the sides as little kids. Anyway, moving on.
Well, we'll give everybody just a couple more
I'm
minutes.
sorry, I muted myself. You talk about when the 5 freeway was built, 1966?
No, when they were piling up the earth in like the late 50s and early 60s.
And where were they piling this dirt up?
I don't remember the streets. I grew up on Lev Avenue near Woodman.
I'm on Arleta Avenue near Cagle Canyon.
Okay,
Very
I used to ride my bike on Arleta. The cul-de-sac on Lev Avenue was just a few feet from Arleta. We used to play baseball in that cul-de-sac with tennis balls.
Oh.
Again, I was like 10 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old. We moved there
Sure.
when I was in 55. Anyway, this is off subject. I apologize.
Yeah, no. I hope it's okay that I'm sure he'll tell us whenever he's ready to start. I hope. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad to hear that old Arleta. As a matter of fact, I was on also the neighborhood council, but I was on the chamber and homeowners association, and I met some of the guys who established Arleta back in that. They got their certification in 1968 because they wanted to be separated from Pacoima. So in humor, I call Arleta the Beverly Hills of Pacoima.
All right, we'll give everybody just another minute to get in. We're up to 65 participants.
And by the way, we did have a little league back then, Mark, and maybe you were on that little league. Was it down by the spreading grounds near Tahunga Spreading Grounds?
I don't know where those are. I did go to watch some Little League games, riding my bike down, I think it was Woodman, but I can't recall the name of the street. I'd have to look at a map.
Okay.
I mean, again, I didn't drive in those days. This was long before I would be getting a driver's license. So I was, restricted to the area. I went to Vina Avenue Elementary School, and then I went to Byrd Junior High for 1 year before we moved to Tarzana.
Oh, okay. Oh, you went to, you said Byrd Junior High and then also Vina School.
Vina Elementary. I used to walk to school. In those days, it was safe to walk to school. Little
Yeah,
kids.
absolutely. And that was further south in Arleta.
Oh, I've got one
All
for
right,
you.
I think we're going to get started now.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, and then we can network after. All right, thank you everybody for attending tonight. My name is Patrick Watts Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Central Bureau Coordinator and the Central Bureau Director of the Neighborhood Team Program. Tonight's topic will be on how to talk on your two-way radio. It's very interesting because two-way radios seem like something easy to do and easy to use. You push to talk and release to listen. But fundamentally, unless you get practice using them, radios are actually very difficult to use. It's not how we associate using a cell phone or having a conversation in person. There's a lot of technique required to use a radio effectively. And if you have a bunch of people who don't know how to use radios well, you actually run into a lot of problems with people stepping on each other, not communicating clearly and understandably. And during our drills, we encourage people who are new radio or people who have never used a radio to try it out for the first time. And they quickly learn they need the practice. And even the people who are experienced with radios also realize that they're a little rusty sometimes, and they need practice as well. If you look at first responders, professionals, EMS, fire, police, they use their radios day in, day out. And sometimes if you listen to them, it's not great either. So really, this is a learned and a skill that needs to be honed. We're not going to go into really the nuts and bolts today. We're going to go overview of what, why, and how, but this isn't a basic using your radio one-on-one class. I do encourage you to get out if there's an exercise that's using radios or a drill or some sort of practice, and get as much experience as you can with it, and meet with others in your neighborhood and see about doing a radio net once a week or a couple times a month. Just turn on your radios and check in, just getting experience using that push to talk button and sending a message over the airwaves. I just realized that closed caption is sitting on top of my slideshow here. So the scenario tonight is it's 7 p.m. or 7:06 p.m. and you're at home, nice quiet night, everything's going smoothly. You just got home from work, or you've been home, you're retired, and you're settling in, and suddenly there's a loud bang. This isn't just a bang. You actually feel your house rattle. It's like an explosion or something out of the ordinary. And it's actually setting off the car alarms up and down the street. But you actually felt your house rattle when this explosion went off. And then the power goes out. First thing we do, of course, is we grab our cell phones and we turn them on, check the signal, and it shows no signal. What do? Now, some people are going to panic. They've never been without their cell phone before. I very rarely am without my cell phone, and the few times where I've had to give it up for whatever reason, withdrawal's an actual real thing. You realize how connected you are through your cell phone, how much our lives depend on it. Not only is it a lifeline and communications device, but the sheer amount of information that we pull through these and entertainment factors, playing your music on these devices, playing games, texting, using the web, they become an integral part of our lives. But for years, decades, centuries, millennia before cell phones, we actually managed to survive without them. Now tell a teenager this and you're probably going to get a strange look, but it is possible. So step one, grab your two-way radio and turn it on. Of course, it would be nice if this thing actually had a charge. So you want to maintain your radios, make sure that you charge them regularly. If they have replaceable batteries, make sure you have spare batteries for them, because you don't want to discover that your batteries are dead on the radio the first time you actually need them. Don't store batteries in the radio. The batteries will deplete and drain out over time, and that's how you either get leaking batteries, which will damage the radio, or you can actually find that your batteries are dead. So always have a fresh spare set of batteries with the radio. I've seen people rubber band them to the radio or tape them to the radio or in the same bag as the radio. Just have those spare. And if you have rechargeable batteries or rechargeable battery pack, see about getting a second one to have on standby. First thing you're going to do, again, turn on your radio. If it's off, it's a paperweight. When do you turn on your radio? Well, as I said, something unusual happened. That loud bang. That's not normal. We don't normally hear these. Something happened, and it could be bad. It could be a one-time issue, or it could be something that's going to get worse. And that's where communicating with your neighbors is going to come in handy. But if the power goes out, turn on your radio. If you hear an explosion, a bang, or gunshots, turn on your radio. If there's an earthquake, turn on your radio. Even if it's something minor, it could be a small jolt, but that could be a foreshock, and things could get worse very quickly. If you expect something to happen, so you know that the forecast is Santa Ana winds, they're expecting 100-mile-an-hour winds in your area, turn on your radio ahead of time. Check in with your neighbors ahead of time. Make sure that you have people you know you can talk to ahead of time, so that if something goes wrong, if there's a problem, you know who you can communicate with and you know who's out there and listening. This is where getting to know your neighbors and coordinating this response is critical, because After the incident occurs, after the windstorm knocks out power and tears people's roofs off their buildings, that's not the time to figure out who you're going to talk to and call for help if you need help. If you know there's going to be a powerful rainstorm, go ahead and talk to your neighbors ahead of time, turn your radios on, make sure that you're prepared for this. It's part of that preparation. And what's the saying? An ounce of preparation is worth a ton of response, or something like that. The reason why we turn our radios on is twofold. One, situational awareness. We want to know what's going on out there. Is whatever happening reaching a point where it's going to become worse and affect us? Something might start a block or two down from us, and it may come our direction. So having information ahead of time, you know that whatever's happening, there's a flood up the street, and you're down the street, and people are reporting that there's rock slides coming down this flood. If you're in a burn scar area, you know this very well. So hearing this report on the radio that there's rocks, boulders, a car coming down the mudslide towards you is something that you probably want to know and would be very useful to know before it lands on top of you. And what happened? That explosion, that bang, are there first responders, police, EMS, fire, someone responding to this? Is this something that we need to investigate because no one is out there? Maybe it is something minor. Maybe, just a transformer exploded and someone's going to call this in to Edison or LADWP. But what if you can't, because your cell phones are now down? And does anybody still have a landline? And are they able to call in? What possible impacts does this explosion cause to the community? If it's a fire, the explosion set off brush, and there's only one way in or out of your community, you probably want to know this as soon as you can so that you can start maybe trying to beat everyone else out of the neighborhood so you don't get trapped. Unfortunately, we speak about reality and tragedy. But if everybody's prepared, everyone has a plan, everyone's working together, we can alleviate a lot of these problems that cause tragedy. And that leads to organizing that response. The saying is, you are the help until help arrives. Under the community emergency response team training, we talk about doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time. And that's really working with your neighbors and making sure that you have an understanding of what's going on, and you know who you can rely on and what is the general plan of getting help or being help if somebody needs it. When you're communicating on the radios, you need to know who you're going to communicate with. In most cases, a handheld radio is really going to be for communicating with your next door or immediate neighbors. You're lucky if you can get any more than a couple blocks away from where you're transmitting from. And that really depends on the topology of your neighborhood. If you're in a hilly area, you're talking to the people on your side of the hill, not necessarily going to be able to reach the people on the other side of the hill. And these radios, depending on how much you've invested in it, just with physics and the capabilities and the quality of the radios, it really is short distance. But that's all we really need to do is we need to talk to our immediate neighbors. We need to talk to a few blocks away. And that's what these radios are great at doing. If you are part of a larger response unit, if you're tied in with the LA City Auxiliary Communication Service, ACS, or with the county DCS, Disaster Communication Service, or if you're part of a larger repeater system, such as the PAPA repeater system, you now have the ability to call for help outside of your local neighborhood. And this becomes very important when your cell phone tower got taken out by that explosion and nobody has a landline and the power's out. Being able to tie into a larger group like that, talking to the repeater system, which ties into all of California and other states as well, means that you can call for help and they can call for help on your behalf. you're relaying information to them, and they're able to call and let the responders that you can't reach for whatever reason know that you need this help. And there's several different radio types out there. This isn't a real breakdown of each type, but we're going to briefly go over it and why it's not important what you choose, but more of how you use it and who you're using it with. Most commonly is going to be the family radio service, or FRS radios. These are, I recommend everybody have one. If you want to get fancy, you want to spend a little bit more money, you want to get licensed, you can go into the GMRS, or General Mobile Radio Service radios. And the great thing about those, they actually tie in with FRS. You can talk to FRS radios, but you have a little bit more power and capability with your GMRS license and radios. There's also the multi-use radio service, MERS, citizen band we hear about, and then amateur radio as well. And what we're doing in LA City is we have licensed commercial radios, and with the neighborhood team program, actually deploying those out and issuing those to certain members as well as the teams. So really, you need to start local. When you're choosing your radio service, what is the purpose of this? And that, I mean, yeah, okay, I want to talk halfway around the world. That could be your motive. But if for a disaster you want to talk to your local neighborhood, then start local. FRS is the perfect solution for this because it is low power. Doesn't require a license. It is free to use. All you need to do is buy the radios, and they're available everywhere. You can get them from Best Buy, Target, Home Depot, REI sells them, Costco, Amazon. Now, the quality of the radio is sometimes a little questionable. You want to do your homework, do a little bit of research. My general point is don't buy the cheapest, but you don't need the most expensive. And at the end of this presentation, we'll actually make recommendations on radios that we've tested and ones that you're going to be very happy with if you get them. What makes FRS so perfect is you're not talking to the entire city. You're not talking to the entire state. You're not talking to the entire country. You're talking within maybe 2 miles at the most. But reality is you're talking probably up to a mile away from you. And this makes it perfect for that local response. If you want to do a little bit more, you can get a GMRS license. That's $35 for a 10-year license, and that covers your entire family. So I think it's all the way around. It says immediate family, but I think you can use it cousins, grandparents. They can all talk on the same license. And then this allows you to use legally more powerful equipment, such as repeaters, mobile radios, bigger antennas than the FRS radio does, which is really limited. But again, you can get those radios and they'll work very well. You don't need to get the GMRS license. However, again, depending on what your group is doing, if your local group has a repeater, you need to get that GMRS license if it's a GMRS repeater to legally talk on that repeater. We do also see MERS out there. It is limited in what it can do. It is 5 channels only. And the radios tend to be on the expensive side. We're talking about probably you won't be able to get one for under $100 of decent quality. So we generally don't use MERS radios, at least in LA City. Other parts of the country, some CERT groups may use it. Part of the problem here is that it is saturated. There are a lot of groups out there that do use MERS, and it becomes difficult to actually compete with them. So we don't recommend them for LA City. Stay away from CB radio, citizen band. It's for truckers, it's for RVers, 4x4ers going off-road. It was really designed to be you're in a caravan and talking, or truckers talking to each other. It is considered the wild, wild west out there. There are rules. I could probably say that most people aren't going to follow them. Certainly you'll hear a lot of profanity on there. And for CERT purposes, I've never seen anybody recommend CB for CERT, for community response. I don't know. It's a different It's different than FRS and GMRS in terms of the propagation, the kind of radio. Generally, they're bigger antennas. They go a little bit farther than FRS does, but I suspect you'll actually have communications issues talking to people inside of the building. But generally, just stay away from it. CB is also known as shortwave radio. So we don't use CB and we don't use shortwave within LA City for CERT, at least. Ham radio is going to give you the greatest flexibility and capabilities. If you know your radio and you want to experiment, you want to have fun, you want to invest a lot of money, get your ham license. It's a fun activity. If you like talking to people around the world, you can talk to the space station, you can talk to, Canada, Chile, China, Russia. For disaster preparedness, you're going to rely on your radio operators, your ham radio operators, to get outside of your local bubble. If they're tied in, say the auxiliary communications service is tied in with the LA City Emergency Management Department, and being able to talk to EMD and get help that way, they're a great asset. So that capability is always good to have. Even if you just want to get in for MCOM, emergency communication purposes, getting your technician license is not a bad idea. It does require a little bit of studying or memorizing. You do have to take a test. There is a $35 fee. It's the same, they've equaled the fee with GMRS now. And I think it's 10 years as well. It used to be free and it used to be for a short amount of time, but they've tried to equal that with GMRS. Look into that if you're interested in advancing your capabilities. GMRS and FRS are great because they can interoperate. If you have an FRS or GMRS radio, you can talk on the same channels and be able to communicate. Someone with a license and more power, and someone who does not have a license and is using the lower power radios. And if you need to talk through sticky situations, a hilly area, an area with challenging terrain, or just need to talk longer range, you can get a repeater using GMRS or ham. Again, those are licensed though, and do require a little bit of investment. And those repeaters allow you to talk. If you can see the repeater, you can talk to anyone else that can see that repeater, which is great, especially if you have it on a mountainside. The entire LA basin can see that repeater. Everyone in the LA basin can talk to each other. And there's pros and cons to that too. If you have 500 people on a particular repeater, things can get bad real fast in terms of trying to deal with that traffic versus you're talking to 20 people in your local neighborhood. Step 2, monitor and check in. Turn your radio on, step 1, and then monitor, listen. If you have a local neighborhood channel, make sure your radio is on that. Find out, first of all, how bad it is. Check on your family, check your building. Was there damage? Typically, we are dealing with earthquakes here, not necessarily an explosion, but an explosion that rocked your building could cause damage to the building as well. So you want to make sure that everyone is safe and that there's no damage. And then you're listening to the radio because you're listening for people to report in. If they have injuries or damage, they're going to report it. As soon as you get an idea of what's going on, then you go ahead and you report it as well. Report your status. Any injuries, any damage to your home, do you need help? And if you start hearing reports that it is bad, there are injuries, there is damage, then that probably means that you need to start talking about doing a neighborhood response. Before you transmit, make sure that you listen. Make sure that the airwaves are clear. Make sure that if there's a conversation going on, you don't jump in and step on it. Only one person can talk on the radio at a time. If someone else is talking on the radio and you key up, one of you will win, one of you will lose, or both of you will lose. And sometimes we hear that where we hear conversations, two people talking at once, and they break in and out of each other, and you can't really make out either of those conversations or either of those people transmitting. So make sure that your radio isn't making noise before you start transmitting. And that means that make sure that your volume's up. I recommend that you listen for at least 60 seconds before you transmit. However, if you have an emergency or priority message, Listen for at least 30 seconds. Make sure that there's not a break in conversation, or you can only hear half that conversation before you jump in and start transmitting. If you do have an emergency or priority traffic, and emergency means that your traffic involves saving life or limb. Priority means it's time sensitive. And sometimes emergency traffic, well, I think by definition, emergency traffic is priority as well. That's when you can interrupt. And that's where you're waiting for a break in two people conversing or passing information to each other. That's where you're waiting, anticipating that there will be someone unkeys the radio, the other person takes a second before they start transmitting. That's when you're going to jump in and you're going to transmit, and you're going to try and break into that conversation. So you let them know that you have an emergency. Generally speaking, you want to repeat things 3 times if you have an emergency. So if you're trying to break in, emergency, 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 hopefully you got in on time and now they heard one of those emergencies before someone jumped into that conversation. Same thing if you have a tricky situation and you need to get information across and you're having challenges in talking on the radio, or at least someone hearing you, repeat the salient information 3 times. Your call sign, your location, 3 times, and hopefully that gets it across clearly. So when you're checking in and you're just trying to find out how bad it is, you're not talking to anyone specifically at this point. You're just providing information into your neighborhood. Hopefully other people are listening. And sometimes there are people listening, they're just waiting for someone else to get on the radio first. So if you make the first move, maybe you'll find out there's other people there, and then you can actually hear them start to key up and report in as well. So that check-in might sound like this. This is CERT 12, Career 1, no injuries, no damage. I then might hear, this is 12, Portola 3, no injuries, broken window. Okay, no injuries, that's good. Broken window, something's up. I hear, this is CERT 47, Huntington 4, pin family member, partially collapsed roof. Okay, partially collapsed roof, that's bad. And pin family member, they need help. Hopefully that person's okay and just trapped, but we start thinking, okay, does this person need help? Are we going to go check on this person, or is something bigger than us happening? And we need to have a more concerted, more organized response neighborhood wide. Now you hear, this is 47 Huntington 7, family member with possible broken leg, X cracks in one wall. And I realized that I'm mixing scenarios here. The initial scenario was a loud bang and the power went out and your cell phone went down. This definitely sounds like an earthquake. But, you know, hey, maybe that explosion really did some damage to this helm. One of the things you're going to be doing by monitoring and identifying the situational awareness is determining, are we going to deploy a staging area? Are we going to set one up? Or are we going to do an organized response within the neighborhood? If you do decide that you're going to do this, let everybody know before you leave your home, the other people who are listening on the radio, that you are leaving your home heading to the staging area. And then if you do deploy, go straight there. Don't do a tour of your neighborhood. Don't get sidetracked. Go straight to the staging area and hope other people are doing so as well. You want to get the staging area operational, and that's where everybody's going to meet. And the more people you have there, the greater response you're going to be able to organize and kick out. If you're the only one there, you're not really responding to anything at that point. That's why you let people know that you're going to go to the staging area, and maybe encourage them to as well. However, if you do have the option to go with a neighbor, I highly recommend it. There's very few times we're going to do anything alone. This would be one of those times where we're actually deploying to the staging area alone. But it's always better to do it in groups. If you have a family member who's also trained or just going to accompany you, make sure that you get there safely, great. If you have neighbors who are trained, or just you can grab them and say, hey, something bad's going on. Let's go find out how bad. I need you to come with me, or I want you to come with me. Always go in pairs if you can, or more than one if possible. But get to the staging area, go there directly. As you're going in, observe, look around, see how bad it is. Maybe you're driving there, maybe you're walking there, doesn't really matter. But observe as you're going in and report anything over the radio that you might see along the way. Don't get sidetracked. Don't start, you see, someone who is in need of help, you see a help sign in the window. Don't go and find out how bad it is and get sucked in and never make it to the staging area. By yourself, you're not a team. By yourself, you're not a responder. By yourself, you're vulnerable. So get to the staging area, report it in. Hey, I'm at this corner at this address. I see a help sign. And hopefully someone's at the staging area documenting these reports. And now they can send a team to investigate. But at the very least, if you're going to effect a rescue of someone who really does need help, go get backup, go get a team. Now come back and do some good. If you go there, there's a very good chance you're going to become a victim. And that's one thing we don't want to ever do, is bring a victim to an incident. So what do you say on the radio? This is kind of the meat and potatoes of this entire thing. We've developed what we call the 5 W's. It goes something like this. Who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have and what do you need? And it might sound something like this. Staging, this is CERT 12 Gabriel 1. I'm at the corner of Via Arbolada and Via Colina. I have a flipped over vehicle, driver trapped, uninjured. I need an incident response team. Who are you trying to reach? Staging. Who are you? Gabriel 1. Where are you? Corner of Via Arbolada and Via Colina. What do you have? Flipped over vehicle, trapped driver or trapped occupant, and I need an incident response team. Simple, to the point. And if you formulate your messages like this, you're going to be very effective at communicating on the radio. I do recommend that you write these down. Just jot down what you're going to say ahead of time, and then you can pretty much read it off bullet point by bullet point, and you're going to be very effective at communicating in this manner. So if I'm the first one, I decide I'm going to go to the staging area. I'll say, this is CERT 12 Gabriel 1. I'm not talking to anyone specifically. I'm just speaking to the neighborhood. This is CERT 12 Gabriel 1, deploying to Monterey Hills staging area. We'll report in when I get there. That lets everybody know I'm going to go to the staging area, and I'm going to let people know that it's safe to go there, or that I've arrived. Then hopefully I'll hear staging 12 Portola 3 en route from Portola Terrace. Cool. I've got someone else coming to the staging area. I've got backup. This is a good start. And then I hear staging CERT 12 Temple 2, corner of Via Marisol and Via Colina. Vehicle into building, 1 trapped survivor, conscious and uninjured. Vehicle is off and situation is stable. Requesting an incident response team. Oh, good. We have incident number 2. Staging 47 Wilson 6, corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol. 20-year-old male, trip and fall with head strike. Survivor lost consciousness but claims to be fine now. Requesting incident response team. For those with medical training, if you know that if somebody loses consciousness, it doesn't matter if they seem like they're fine now. Losing consciousness is not normal. You get hit in the head so badly that you actually black out from it. It could mean that you have a concussion, or you could have something else going on, and that requires medical attention. You need to have that looked at. Whether or not that's possible, at the very least, the correct thing is to request an incident response team, have them look this person over while you're continuing into the staging area, or you're on a damage assessment team and continuing your assessment. You see at the beginning, this is deploying to, we'll report when I get, there's some niceties in there. Towards the end of some of these examples, it's bullet pointed. You're not putting those niceties. Staging, 47 Wilson 6, corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol. It's a lot more efficient than saying, I'm trying to reach staging. My call sign is 47 Wilson 6. I'm at the corner of. You can cut out some of that if you're effective and efficient. And writing it down really does lead to that. If you can jot down the points ahead of time, you don't need to add in things like I am at, this is, and that those things are your brain trying to think of the next thing I need to say. So I highly encourage you, write down everything before you say it and just read it off. You will thank me if you do that. So going back to the 5 W's, who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have and what do you need? The first W is, who are you trying to reach? And when we use radios, typically we're on one channel. There's multiple groups, multiple people on this one channel, and multiple conversations can happen. A lot of these conversations don't involve you. So if you're listening to the radio, you're probably not listening that attentively, especially when it has nothing to do with you at all. But you're listening for your call sign. You know what your call sign is. So when you hear somebody call your call sign, hopefully you perk up and start listening. We do this first because we don't want to do it at the end or halfway through the message, because you weren't listening prior to hearing your call sign. If you hear, this is CERT 47, Huntington 2 to Cabrillo 1. I heard Cabrillo 1. I don't know who called me. Especially if they then rattle off an entire message, your first response is, who is this? Who is trying to reach me? Because you missed it. Now you hear Cabrillo 1, this is CERT 47 Huntington 2. Okay, I heard my name and now I hear who's calling me. Try and get in the habit of doing it in that order, and it's going to make things so much easier. Don't forget to say who you are or who you're trying to reach. Otherwise, it's, I've got a blah, 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 blah. Like, who are they talking to? It's probably not me, so I'm not paying attention to this. And no one else is either. So make sure you're getting the attention of who you're trying to reach, because they're the only ones who are going to be listening to you. Again, repeat the call sign 3 times if you're having challenges. So staging. This is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1. Hopefully staging now hears themselves and they know to start listening. Okay. I think this is out of order, but when you're doing a medical report, the pieces of information that are relevant to a medical report are age, sex, and chief complaint. And so when Wilson 6 called in, they called in a 20-year-old male, trip and fall with head strike. Survivor lost consciousness but claims to be fine now, requesting an incident response team. So age, sex, 20-year-old male, trip and fall with head strike. Those are the pieces of information that another responding incident response team or first responders will need to find this person. They arrive and they find at the location you reported in, at the corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol, they find a 50-year-old female with lacerations, and they're expecting to find a 20-year-old male with a trip and fall and a head strike. There's 2 possibilities. One, they got the information wrong, or they have multiple victims and they haven't found the actual victim or survivor they're looking for. And they start working on the person that they found, not the person that they were responding to, and they don't even acknowledge this, and things go bad for that person who they were actually deployed to or dispatched to. They could just be around the corner. And sometimes this happens if we work Rose Parade with the Red Cross. Oftentimes you'll be deployed or dispatched to something and you'll find something else. So age, sex chief complaint. No names. You're not reporting the name. You don't need to report, she's wearing a polka dot dress or he's wearing overalls. Age, sex, chief complaint. Who are you? So, again, you don't say who you are. The person that you're calling doesn't know how to help you, what your purpose is calling them. You could be a team, you could be individual, you could be some rando who's just on the radio and causing problems. So the other thing to note is I especially am guilty of this. People are horrible at identifying voices over the radio. You can hear two conversations and you can't identify who is who, and that confuses things very quickly. So especially when we're doing an organized response, we're actually identified by team or position, not the individual. This isn't CERT 12 Cabrillo 1 anymore. This is Alpha Team, or this is staging. And that position or team can change. So you might be on one team and then you go into another team and you just change your tactical call sign at that point. I'm no longer Alpha Team, I'm now Echo Team. I'm no longer staging, I'm now on a team or something. So again, you're not calling the person, you're calling the position or you're calling the team. And we've seen this happen several times during exercises or drills is you think you're talking to one team and someone else has jumped in and now you're talking to someone else and it got weird. You don't know what's going on. So always preface your communications, especially when we're not great at them, with who you're reaching and who you are, because you might be in the middle of a conversation and something happened and now staging is having a different conversation and they still think they're talking to you. But every time you start up, staging, this is Alpha Team, staging, this is Alpha Team, staging, this is Alpha Team, they know they're talking to the right person or the right team. And again, you're talking to staging, but you think you're talking, you got sidetracked and something happened and now you're talking to a different team entirely. So always, 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 who are you reaching? Who are you? And then continue your conversation. And if you really want to get fancy with it, at the end of your message, give your call sign again. Staging, this is Alpha Team. We're at the corner of walk and don't walk. We have a trip and fall with a head strike. We need an incident response team. Alpha Team. Now staging knows, okay, you're done with your message. And now I'm going to respond. And again, communications get challenging or difficult. Repeat salient information 3 times. Staging, staging, staging. This is Alpha Team, Alpha Team, Alpha Team. And hopefully they now know Alpha Team is calling them. This is critical. Wait for acknowledgement before you start rattling off a bunch of details. Staging is busy. The person you're trying to reach is busy. There's multiple things going on. They might not hear you. You gave a 3-minute monologue on the radio and you were speaking to no one because no one was listening to you. So, staging, this is Alpha Team. Stop transmitting. Wait for acknowledgement. You should hear Alpha Team, go for staging. Now you start up again. Again, repeating. Staging, this is Alpha Team. Now you go into the rest of it. We're at the corner of walk and don't walk. We have a 20-year-old male, head strike, trip and fall, so on, so on, so on. This does establish that someone is actually listening and ready for your message, ready to communicate to you. You might hear Alpha Team stand by. Okay, they heard me, they acknowledged me, but they're busy. They're not ready for me to get into a radio conversation with them right now. Hopefully they will get back to me shortly. And depending on how busy they are, it may be a long while before you hear back from them. Or they might have forgotten about you. Give them a few minutes. If you don't hear back from them, you don't hear anything else going on, check in again, make sure they haven't forgotten about you. Staging, this is Alpha Team. Do you still need more time to stand by? And we'll stand by. Alpha team, sorry, go ahead. Okay, cool. Now you start up alpha staging. This is alpha team, and continue on with your message. If you don't hear anybody respond, you've tried several times. Staging, this is alpha team. No one responds. Give it another try. Staging, this is alpha team. No response. Give it a couple minutes. Staging, this is alpha team. Still nothing. Couple more minutes. Staging. This is alpha team, alpha team, alpha team. Nothing. Okay. Now we got to figure out what we're going to do. Depending on what we have, we might have to send a runner. Maybe the entire team needs to recall. You've lost communications with staging. You need to find out what's going on and reestablish that communications. I mentioned this already. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Repeat who you're talking to. Repeat who you are. Every time you start off a transmission. Every single time. We're not great at radio. There's multiple things going on. There's multiple conversations going on. You sound like every other person on the radio. And if you just continue having that two-way conversation, it might actually be a four-way conversation. You don't even realize it. So, staging, this is alpha team. Alpha team, this is staging. Confirm, 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 each time. Okay, so staging, this is alpha team. Alpha team, go for staging. Staging, this is alpha team. We're at the corner of walk and don't walk. My battery dies at this point. I can't communicate with staging anymore. Staging can't get a hold of me. Staging at least knows I'm at the corner of walk and don't walk. And hopefully they can send a team. It might take a while. But worst case scenario, something has happened to your team. You fell into a ditch and you can't get out. And now you have no way of communicating. The fact that you got out your location hopefully means that when staging realizes they haven't heard from you for an hour or two, that they're sending a team looking, and the last known location was corner of walk and don't walk. Or you've continued on, but you're on a pre-designated route, and they last heard you at corner of walk and don't walk and can extrapolate, okay, this is Alpha Team's route. They should hopefully be somewhere along this route. We're going to start at corner of walk and don't walk, and we're going to go on from there. This is also why damage assessment teams should avoid going off route as much as possible. Something happens to you or your team, and they have no idea where you are because you went off route. Let staging know where you are sooner than later. Again, this is staging. This is Alpha Team. We've got a trip and fall, broken ankle, multiple cars exploding, all sorts of gang violence going on right now. Oh yeah, we're at the corner of the radio dies. Great. Sounds like that team needs help. I have no idea where they are because they transmitted their location last, and that's when their radio died on them. What do you have and what do you need? This is really the crux of that radio communication. Your purpose is to pass information, receive information, or request something. What do I have? I have a 30-year-old male trip and fall with a head strike. I have a flipped over vehicle. I have a vehicle into building. I have power lines down, wires sparking. Staging is blind. They have no idea what you've got out there. The purpose of your damage assessment is to let staging know what's going on, because now they can orchestrate a response to it. But until they know how bad it is out there, they can't prioritize any incidents. And so that's what you're passing them. What do you have? This can get argued both ways. You might have something that doesn't require a response. You have situational awareness. I'm walking along and there's a tree down. No injuries, no damage, but the airways are clear. So, hey, staging, this is Alpha Team. Alpha Team, go ahead. This is Alpha Team. We're at the corner of don't trip and fall on a broken tree. And we have a tree down, no injuries, no damage, for your situational awareness only. Alpha team acknowledging, thank you for that situational awareness. It's not an incident. They don't need to really document it, but they're starting to paint a picture of what's going on out there. They hear multiple trees down. Chances are it's probably going to be an injury or two caused by a fallen tree, maybe some property damage. So you really, as staging, you want to start building that picture. How bad is it out there? Now, if it is busy and you hear a lot of people talking on the radio, don't waste time giving situational awareness. Stay off the air till you have something relevant to say. What do you need? Sometimes all you need is to send that information up. You're not requesting anything, which is fine. But sometimes you're walking up on something and you know this is going to be bad and you want to let staging know. Staging, this is Alpha Team. Go ahead, Alpha Team. Staging, this is Alpha Team. Corner of walk and don't walk. We have someone crumpled to the ground up ahead. We're going to investigate and get back to you. Can I get an incident number? That's the piece of information you're requesting. Can I get that incident number? You already know someone crumpled to the ground, not good. Might be nothing, might be something. You're going to investigate. You're letting staging know ahead of time because staging may have an incident response team capable of deploying towards you. Maybe it's not just someone crumpled to the ground. Maybe you saw a head-on collision and it's bad and you know you're going to need backup. You let staging know as soon as you can and request that and let them know that something is going on so they can get ready to respond, get ready to send you backup, send a team out that can handle this. The incident number then makes it very simple to communicate. You call back in, staging, this is Alpha Team. Go ahead, regarding incident number 1. Alpha Team, from staging, provide your updates on incident number 1. Now you know you're talking about that incident that you've already requested the number for. Simplifies. You don't have to keep saying we're at the corner of walk and don't walk. We're at the corner of walk and don't walk. This is regarding that incident at the corner of walk and don't walk. Regarding incident number 1. Done. Simplifies. Maybe you're calling in for transport. You're calling in for a case back. That's a civilian transport. You're calling in for some guy with a pickup truck who's going to take this person to the hospital, or a van, or a station wagon, or something. Or you need a rescue ambulance and you're tied into the fire department. And now we can pass that information up. Here's the big one. When do you transmit? And I've alluded to this already. When you know that staging needs to know about this. When you know that you need more resources. When you know this looks bad, that's when you transmit. Transmit early. Staging, this is Alpha Team. Alpha Team, go ahead. Staging, this is Alpha Team. We're approaching corner of walk and don't walk. We see a vehicle into a tree. There appears to be a driver slumped over the steering wheel. We're going to investigate and get back to you. Can I get an incident response number or incident number? Cool. Alpha Team, this is staging. Incident number 3. Please provide details or more information as soon as you have it. Staging. I see a giant fireball. Giant fireball is probably bad. You know, don't wait till you find out more information about it and you find out that not only is it a giant fireball, but you're now in the fire and that's when you need help. Or worse, you don't report it in early enough and something happens to you and your team and you never get to make that radio call. Let staging know as soon as you think you need additional resources, as soon as you realize this looks bad, as soon as you think staging needs to know about this. If it's something minor, you can wait, maybe. But your radio operator, your radio communicator, their job is to communicate with staging. Team can walk and talk at the same time. How much do I say? In general, you want to be clear, concise, to the point, and then get off the air. Try and keep your radio transmissions 30 seconds to 60 seconds at the most. Realize that there are other people that need to communicate. And if you do need to talk a little bit more, provide additional details, break up that communication. You can use words like break or standby, reset, letting you unkey the radio, take a breath, and then get back on the air. This also allows other people to break in if they have emergency traffic. Radios generally don't like to be transmitting 100% of the time. So as you talk, it generates heat and burns through battery life. So if your radio is rated for 12 hours, it's 12 hours at 5% communication, 5% transmit. If you're talking for 30 minutes straight on the radio, you'll probably burn out the battery in that 30 minutes. So break it up. If you start to get to 60 seconds, realize that you need to throw in a reset break or just something to let them know that you're going to continue on transmitting, and then unkey, take a breath, give it a second. If someone has emergency communications, they can get in at this point, and then start up again, staging this is Alpha Team, continuing on, and then at least they know they're receiving more information. If your message is over 60 seconds long, you could probably do something to shorten that. Ideally, 30 seconds is a pretty good amount of time to talk on the radio. Anything more than that, try and break it up a little bit. Use plain English, no 10 codes. We're not the police. You can always tell a cop on the radio when they're starting 10-4, 10-20, whatever. Don't give unnecessary details. Don't use flowery language. Don't over-describe something. Be clear, concise, to the point. If they need more information, they'll ask for it. Think before you transmit. Better yet, write down what you're going to say before you transmit. It will make your communication so much better. It's push to talk, not push to think. And we'll hear this. We'll hear somebody key up. Staging this is Alpha Team. We're at the corner of yeah. You hear that all the time on the radio. Don't be that person. This is critical. Speak calmly with an even tone, anticipating that the other person's writing it down. You don't want to speak too slowly because you think that'll just aggravate everybody on the radio. But don't speak too fast and provide too much information and rush it, and take a breath. If you rush it, it sounds garbled. If you take too long, people are going to get frustrated with you. But this is where it's practice talking on the radio. Again, know what you're going to say before you say it. Don't key up, think about it, and then say it. Write down the 5 W's. Bullet point. Who are you calling? I'm calling staging. Just write staging. Who are you? Alpha Team. Write down Alpha Team. Where are you? Corner walk and don't walk. What do you have? 30-year-old female trip and fall with a head strike. What do you need? Transport to the hospital. Your communication should sound like something like this. Staging, this is Alpha Team. Go ahead, Alpha Team. Staging, this is Alpha Team. We're at the corner of walk and don't walk. 30-year-old female trip and fall with a head strike. We need transport to the hospital. You literally just read off those bullet points and you have a rock solid communication. If you lose your train of thought, you're getting into the transmission and you realize that you're starting to ramble off, you're trying to think about something, take a break, unkey the radio, stand by. You say stand by or break or reset. Let the other person know you're not done transmitting, you're coming back, but take that opportunity to catch your breath and then put your thoughts together. Realize now I made a mistake. I did not write down my message. Write it down real fast and then get back on the air. Staging, Alpha Team. Go ahead, Alpha Team. Corner walk and don't walk. 30-year-old female trip and fall head strike. We need transport to the hospital. good, solid communication. Knowing what not to say on the radio is just as important as knowing what to say. Understand that all radio transmissions are public and unsecured, especially if you're using FRS. You should always assume that your radio communications are being monitored. Again, you don't want to use 10 codes, no code words. You're not trying to be secretive about it. But at the same time, we use call signs for a reason. We're not talking to Bob or Sam. We're talking to Alpha Team. We're talking to Cabrillo 1. We're talking to Huntington 2. And this is where we talk about the different kinds of call signs. We have tactical, that's related to that position, that team. It's not the person you're talking to that position. You're talking to the radio communicator on Alpha Team. You're not talking to the team leader. You're not talking to Bob. You're not talking to Cabrillo 1. You're talking to Alpha Team. Same thing, you're talking to staging. There might be multiple radio operators, radio communicators at staging. It doesn't matter. You're talking to staging. If you're doing a net and there's not a deployment, there's not an emergency, and you're trying to reach someone, you're not calling, hey, Bob. No, you're calling, hey, Aguilar 2. And that's when you start using the personal call signs. And that is the person you're talking to. Or, hey, Cabrillo 1 is the team leader on Alpha Team. Alpha Team, I need to speak to Cabrillo 1. Okay, now you're talking to that person. You give your call sign. Bravo Team, this is Cabrillo 1. Go ahead with your transmission. Keep your personal information off the radio. Keep it short, concise, to the point, and relevant to the mission at hand. When you get to the staging area, you're going to form teams and respond. Step 4. Each team should have a dedicated radio communicator. Using radios is hard. You shouldn't be the radio operator and the scribe and the team leader. Have one duty, one job. You are the radio operator. So-and-so is the scribe. So-and-so is the team leader. They have one job. We can't multitask well. We can only do so many things. The more jobs that we have, the more things we try and do at the same time, the worse we're at it. Do one thing and do it well. Damage assessment team, or in our system that we've built, there are only 4 assigned roles. You have a team leader. This could be the staging manager. This could be the incident response team leader. This could be the damage assessment team leader. The position is team leader. You have a scribe. Scribes get a bad rap. People don't want to be the scribe, but understand that you're collecting information, you're documenting things. You're probably actually the most important person on this team, and your assistance with running the team, with making sure that things happen, especially at the staging area, you're practically the deputy team leader. You know what's going on. You're interfacing with the team leader. Something happens to that team leader. Guess who's stepping up? The scribe, because they know everything that's going on. So if you want to get into being a team leader, be a great scribe, and then provide vital assistance to the team leader. Help them figure out, help them make things happen. Be the right-hand person to the staging manager. Learn that position, learn both, and then step up and advance your career through that. Get experience doing that. Radio communicator, again, self-explanatory. That's why we're all here. But if you're trying to write things down and talk on the radio at the same time, some people are good at it. Some people, especially if you're just starting out, it goes bad. So you're paired with the scribe. You should be, that's a buddy team right there. A good scribe is going to make you so much happier because you're trying to keep track of information. You're going to jot down your own notes. The scribe, you're going to look over and realize you got something wrong. That scribe caught it correctly, or now you're having a conversation about what actually happened and make sure you figure it out and make sure you're both on the same page. And then hands-on responder pairs. This is particularly in medical, but could be for anything. There's only 2 types of teams out there: damage assessment and incident response. And staging area. Staging needs to augment. Staging can't be just the staging manager. Staging needs If you look back on the assigned roles, probably only scribes and radio communicators. So if you're picking other roles, a map writer or a documenter, that's a scribe. Someone who's talking to radio communicator. So when you're augmenting, you're looking for scribes and radio operators to assist operations at the staging area. Damage assessment teams should have a predefined route, and this is something that's mapped out ahead of time, exercised, trained. We know this route works. We know the radio communication limits on this route. We know the risks and dangers along this route. If something happens, the team should be along this route. If you have a problem and the team is not on this route, good luck finding them. Same thing, I'm going to send a team out. They're going to wander around randomly. And now I'm going to hope they do a good job of communicating the location to me. Our last drill, team went off route. Guess what? Staging had no idea that team went off route. Something happened to that team. Nobody would have been able to find them. If you don't have a route ahead of time and things go south, good luck finding your team. If you're the team and your route is blocked, make very clear that you have to deviate from the route and make sure staging is aware that you're deviating. When you update your location, if you're at staging and they're calling in from a different location than you expect them to be, something's going on. Find out what. A damage assessment team has 3 people: team leader, radio operator, and scribe. It is minimum for a team is 3. A pair is not a team. Damage assessment team, their job is to report, triage, stabilize, and move on. They need to complete the damage assessment, find out how bad it is out there, and make sure that staging understands what they need to respond to. You don't want to have 15 people on a damage assessment team. There's really no point. Use your resources wisely. Team leader, radio operator, and scribe. The radio operator and scribe are a pair. Team leader keeps track of the team, makes sure that they stay on track, and makes sure the team makes it home safe. That is their job. Worst case scenario, you need to investigate something and you need to put your team into harm's way. Say there's a help sign and someone's screaming for help inside a building. You can make sure staging is aware and okays this. The team leader can stay outside and the radio operator and scribe can go in, but the team leader takes the radio and they stay outside where it's safe. You need to maintain visual contact. At the very least, you need to be in earshot of your team. Make sure you are constantly communicating with them so that if something happens, the building collapses on top of them, you're calling for help. You're making sure the team makes it home safe. Team leader's always hands off. If you're the team leader and you want to dive in and you want to get your hands bloody and you want to do all the jobs, you're not a team leader. Pair means work together. Yes. Pairs go together. They stick together. Someone needs to go to the restroom, that their partner, their paired person is going to be within earshot of them at all times. Never split up from your team member, your teammate, your partner, your battle buddy, whatever. All right, so communications from the team. Staging, this is Alpha Team. Go ahead for staging. Staging, this is Alpha Team. We're at the corner of Via Marisol and Via Colina. Vehicle into building. We are investigating, requesting an incident number. Who are you calling? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have? And what do you need? I hope that's straightforward enough. Staging, Alpha Team, regarding incident number 7. Alpha Team, go for an update on incident number 7. Staging, Alpha Team, regarding incident number 7. 1 trapped survivor, conscious and uninjured. Vehicle is off and situation is stable. Requesting incident response team. Address is 4478 Via Marisol at the intersection of Via Colina. In this particular instance, we put the location at the end because staging already knows where incident number 7 is. So you didn't need to repeat that information right away. You said regarding incident number 7. The understanding is you're at that location, but maybe it was the intersection of Via Colina and Via Marisol. That's the information that was provided. So that follow-up, it really is providing additional information on top of what is already known. That's why it's not third in line. Each situation is going to be different. You're going to play around with it. The templates are there to give you an idea of what to follow and how to get started. It's not going to work 100% of the time for everything. So use it as a baseline. Use it as a good way to get started and then build from there. Staging, Bravo team. Go ahead, Bravo team. Staging, Bravo team from the corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol. We have a 20-year-old male, trip and fall with a head strike. Survivor lost consciousness, but claims to be fine now. Requesting incident response team. If you had this written down on your notes, your scribe wrote this down, you jotted this down, you just have to read it off, bullet point by bullet point, and it's perfect communication. Incident response team is going to respond to incidents that have been reported in, either by the initial people walking in, people over the radio, or the damage assessment team that walked in. Staging is going to figure out where they need to prioritize their response, where they're sending the team, and then form that incident response team. The great thing about being on an incident response team is you have more time. Your mission isn't to get something done. Your mission is incident number 7. You're working incident number 7, and you're only working incident number 7. And you're going to bring that incident to a conclusion. Either this person is going to go with relatives and stay safe and they've been given information, or we need to get this person transported. We're going to stay with them until they transport, or some other thing happens. Maybe the fire department shows up and we hand them off. This team can be between 5 and 7 people. You're going to start with that basic core team, the team leader, radio communicator, and scribe, and then you're going to add on responder pairs. Again, these are battle buddies, these are partners, they stick together. They're going to work on the patient while the core team, that team leader, radio operator, and scribe, stand off and make sure that they're safe and can focus on what they're trying to do. And sometimes, hopefully, you'll have 2 responder pairs, and you can, if you have multiple injuries, each pair can work on one person at a time. What's also cool about this is the possibility that you can actually break off one of your responder pairs. This is where having additional radio communications will really come in handy. If everybody has an FRS radio and you're all on the same channel and can communicate within the team, then that responder pair can break off. Make sure staging knows that this is happening. Staging, this is Echo Team. Echo Team, go ahead. We're en route to incident number 7, but someone came up and asked for help. We're going to send one of our responder pairs to investigate. We have FRS communications. Designate them Echo 2. We're going to be Echo 1. Echo 1 acknowledging. Echo 2 is going to break off and investigate a request for help while you continue on to the incident number 7. Gives you flexibility, but having that extra radio communication so that Echo 2 can now communicate with Echo 1. Now, you might be far away from staging and Echo 2 can't talk to staging. That's not relevant. Echo 2 belongs to Echo Team, and that's who you're communicating with. You're communicating with the team leader at that point, or radio operator with Echo 1. Communication should sound something like this. Staging, Echo Team. Echo Team, go for staging. This should have been staging, Echo Team regarding incident number 7. Echo Team, go ahead with your updates on incident number 7. Staging, this is Echo Team regarding incident number 7. We are on scene at 4478. Again, you spell out each letter. It's not 4478. It's not 4,478 4478. Put a period between each piece of information because someone might be writing it down. 4478 via Marisol, near Via Colina. We're assessing. We'll report with more information. Cool. Staging acknowledges. Waiting for your updates on incident number 7. Staging Echo Team regarding incident number 7. Echo Team, go ahead with your update on incident number 7. Staging Echo Team, incident number 7. Driver has been extracted from the vehicle. Vehicle is off and safe. Driver is uninjured, requesting a new incident. You brought the incident to conclusion. Driver is uninjured. They got extracted from the vehicle. Our job's done. Moving on. Give us a new incident. Give Echo Team something else to do. Staging Foxtrot regarding incident number 9. Foxtrot, go ahead with your update on incident number 9. Staging Foxtrot, incident number 9. Again, repeating over and over again so that you have that clear communication. You know who you're talking to, and the other party knows who's talking to them and what this is regarding. Staging Foxtrot, incident number 9. Patient is coherent and does not think he lost consciousness. He's with a family member, and they will continue to monitor him in case he gets worse. This one's a judgment call. Remember, they got reported in by a damage assessment team that this was a head strike and the patient lost consciousness. If you're medically trained, you know that that's bad, but maybe they didn't lose consciousness. What they're doing is they're handing off to a family member who will monitor them. You're in a disaster scenario. You don't have time to personally take them to the hospital. You might not have the capability of getting them to the hospital. They should go to the hospital, but your conclusion is you're leaving them in the care of a family member, and they know to call for help or get additional help if something goes south with this person. Staging Golf, incident number 12. Golf, go ahead with your incident number 12. Staging Golf, incident number 12. Patient has an obviously broken leg and possibly internal injuries, requesting transport to hospital. At this point, hopefully you have some way of sending transport. If you have someone you've established, okay, you've got someone with a pickup truck and they're going to take people to the hospital, then hopefully you can send help that way. All right, so for those of you who've been waiting to find out what radios you should get, we tested multiple radios, FRS radios, and what we really wanted to do was be able to give a solid recommendation. We were looking through 3 different price points. We were looking for a low price point, a medium price point, and a high price point. What we discovered is that the Midland GXT 1000 blew every single other radio we tested out of the water, hands down. If you want to get a radio, get the GTX 1000. It's $70 for a pair, $40 for a single radio, and you can order them from Amazon. If that's too pricey for you, our second recommendation is the Motorola T200. $40 for a pair. I haven't checked the prices with inflation and everything, but when we tested, these were the prices on Amazon. These both take AA batteries. We wanted a radio that took AA's because the AAA's we found just don't have enough power, or rather they don't have enough capacity. Your radios with AAA batteries will run dry and run out of power much sooner than an equivalent radio with AA batteries. So we wanted to standardize on that. We wanted USB charging, but the GXT 1000 comes with a cradle and not USB charging. It was such a superior radio to everything else that we conceded that that's acceptable. What's interesting about the GXT 1000 is it's 4 AA batteries. It actually has more power and more range than the other radios with only 3 batteries. So that gives it a distinct advantage over everything else. So you want to get a radio, and you don't need something that's more expensive than the GXT 1000. They they weren't worth it. You're going to be happy with that radio. You'll also be happy with the T200. Those are FRS GMRS radios, so you don't need a license to transmit on them. If you have a license, you can transmit on them, no big deal. If you want to get a dedicated GMRS radio that requires a license, those can have more power. They have antennas that you can take off and upgrade. You can get them as a mobile radio in your vehicle. You can get them that can communicate with a repeater. A lot of options out there, not necessarily cheap. You want to get really fancy, go ahead and get your ham radio technician license. And then start talking to your ham groups, local groups out there. Play around with them, find out. There's a whole lot of things on the internet, a whole lot of groups out there. You can meet up with them. An HT handheld handy talkie, that's something that can clip to your belt, stay on your person. Mobile radio is going to be pretty much fixed to your vehicle with a larger antenna outside the vehicle. Those will communicate a whole lot farther than a handheld will. Plus you have the more power that you can actually push out. Handheld's probably going to be a FRS radio for sure is going to be 0.5 watt to 2 watts at the most. A ham radio is typically going to be about 5 watts, maybe 8 on a HT. A mobile radio can transmit upwards of 50 watts of power. And if you really need to talk long distance, that's going to do a lot. There are base stations out there. If you want 300 watts of power, you want to talk around the world, cool. That really is not what we're caring about right now, though. We're talking about talking locally, talking about getting help during a disaster. CB radios, citizen band radios, just don't even. No one's using them here. If there are, it's going to be a very small group, and it's not going to suit the purposes of this, which is communicating locally. Now, on the other hand, if your team does use CB radios, cool, get CB radio. MERS, we're not using them. If your local team does, cool, get MERS. This is what your team is doing, what your neighborhood is doing. Commercial radios are going to get issued to you. In the case of the neighborhood team program, we're putting staging area kits throughout the city. Those have commercial radios in them. Those get issued to the team as they deploy out. If your group has an agreement with us, your group may get issued radios depending on how we fund it. And so then you can use those radios. But those are going to be fairly particular circumstances. All right. So thank you, everybody. Are there any questions? I have not really had a chance to look through the chat. Daryl, are you on still? Daryl?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Daryl, another Daryl. Sorry.
Oh, different Daryl.
Different Daryl, yeah.
Sorry.
I guess he's not here. I didn't communicate with him earlier. I saw him on and made him co-host. I was hoping he would be able to monitor the chat and help out. But go ahead and raise your hand if you have any questions. I'll try and read through the chat as well. Maggie, go ahead and mute and ask your question.
Thank you. Yeah, I became CERT certified probably in 2017. And at that time, they were not giving out vests or radios or anything other than the book. So I have no equipment. So I plan on getting the radios, and I'll do that on my own. But is there something else I should be getting? And how do I know what my call sign is?
Generally speaking, unless there's an organized group, either grassroots or government organized, the answer is no. A lot of programs are teach and release, where they teach you and then good luck, you're on your own. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the groups that are out there are grassroots. Someone said, hey, we need to do something. I know you took the class. I saw you in the class. Let's start something. Let's build this from the ground up. And I mentioned the neighborhood team program. The neighborhood team program is really a foundational.
Mhm.
We provide documentation, step-by-step guides. We want to help you get your group started without having to reinvent the wheel.
Mhm.
And so that's what we're doing with the neighborhood team program. But very few groups out there have a government entity controlling them that has
Mhm.
built any kind of structure. And the reason for that is pretty simple. If you're a firefighter and you're told, hey, guess what? You get the CERT program, or you're the one person at the emergency management department, and guess what? Your job is also deal with all these volunteers. Um,
Enough said.
yeah. And sometimes they're great. Sometimes they can do a lot of good. A lot of times we hear, I inherited this program from my predecessor and I
Mhm.
have nothing and I don't know where to get started.
Okay.
So I don't know where you are. What part of where are you from?
I live in Woodland Hills, right on the border of Hidden Hills and Calabasas, right where they all come together. And I am a nurse, and I'm also former military. So I'm comfortable using radios. Haven't had one since I retired from the Air Force, but yeah, and I'm okay getting my own thing. But how do I know what my call sign is? That's the big thing.
So we assign call signs, but it could be anything. It could be, hey, if you're talking to a group, your immediate neighbors, you figure out your call signs. I mentioned the call signs we're using to identify, they help us identify where we are without pinpointing it
Mhm.
because it's public. So if I
Mhm.
say I'm CERT 12 Cabrillo 1, that means I'm CERT trained. I'm
Mhm.
in Fire Station 12's first in,
Mhm.
and I live on Cabrillo Street.
Okay.
Um, if you're CERT 12 Portola 1 and you know where Cabrillo Street is, you have a rough estimate of where I am.
Mhm.
And now you know we're neighbors. Or
Mhm.
you're CERT 12 Cabrillo 2, or just 12 Cabrillo 2, you're not CERT trained yet. You know, hey, someone on my street is nearby. Now you hear something like, Figueroa goes from the very north of LA all the way down to the south of LA,
Mhm.
and you have multiple fire station designators along Figueroa. So you're CERT 12 Figueroa 2, CERT 105 Figueroa 7, probably
Mhm.
not even in the neck of the woods that you are.
So the cert, I'm sorry, so I would be would I be 17 because that's my district? Or would I be,
Are you
or
in
what?
LA City?
I live in LA City, correct,
Okay.
Woodland
So
Hills.
what's your fire station?
I believe it's the one, gosh, I'm not sure if it's the one on Fallbrook, just south of Victory, or the one on the newer one that moved from, what was it, Canoga
Yeah.
to, is it
So
Oxnard or Burbank?
on this slide, you'll see there's a website, join.ntp-la.org. If you sign up there, it will guide you through identifying, what battalion you're in and give you a link to find out what your fire station is by looking up your address. And
Uh-huh.
then you can sign up there and
Okay.
we'll put you in contact with your battalion coordinator, there's your bureau coordinators, and we'll also help you get a call sign.
Wonderful. And you said that's join.mtp?
N as in neighborhood, T as in team, P as in program,
Okay,
dash LA as in Los Angeles.
awesome.
ntp-la.org. I'm putting
Got
it
it.
in the chat as well.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you.
that signs you up for our newsletter, so you'll find out about these trainings as well.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And then if you have any questions, my email address is here as well,
Got it. Let's
patrick@disasterprep.org.
do that. Oh, I see.
I'm putting that in the chat as well.
Thank you. Thanks,
Welcome.
Patrick. Appreciate
Elizabeth.
it.
Elizabeth Pollock, go ahead and unmute.
Good evening. I got into this because in the 2018 fire in Malibu, my aunt's house was nearly crisped. We couldn't get hold of her for a couple of hours. And I'm wondering if the cell phones are out and we need to get hold of somebody, but the staging hasn't been set up yet. do you just get on the radio and listen for what channel is open?
Well, if you have a neighborhood group, talk to your neighbors, identify, again, very few teams exist and have been organized. So you're really looking at building it yourself. Talk to your immediate neighbors, talk to your family and say, hey, we're going to get on this channel. This is going to be our channel. And this is going to be our neighborhood channel, or this is going to be our family channel. And pre-plan this ahead of time.
Okay, well, we're going to have a staging area at Pacific Division Police Station, but that's 1.5 miles from my house. So I'm not going to be, I think I'm going to go, I'm just not sure what we do if we can't call 911. The fire department has told us you're on your own for at least a week if there's an earthquake. So where do we call if we need to get help?
Start local. Start with your immediate neighbors. Talk to your battalion coordinator. It sounds like you're probably in Battalion 6.
4.
I'm sorry, Battalion 4. So talk to Jose. Jose, myself, Chin, Carl were at that meeting with Pacific Division. So we're working on it. It's nothing, is immediate and instant and takes time. Everything takes time. But that's what we want to do, is start building these plans, building these response. But talk to Jose.
Okay,
He'll help you get started.
great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Sherman.
Yeah, I just looked up on Amazon for the radio. So it's called a GMRS radio. Is that right?
And there are multiple GMRS radios out there. If you're looking at that Midland GXT 1000.
Right. And it came up GMRS as next to that.
It's a FRS GM. I'm pretty sure they are all FRS GMRS radios. So you don't see Ralph shaking his head. I don't know the answer to that. If it's designated as a GMRS radio and requires a license, there's been multiple versions of the GXT 1000. So the latest rules are, if it is a FRS GMRS radio, it has a fixed antenna and it adheres to no more than 0.5 watt on FRS channels, then you can use it, I believe. I don't want to give incorrect information, but I haven't heard anything to the contrary of that.
Okay.
Without a license.
Okay. I'm seeing initial search. That's what came up. Thank you.
Yeah. Ralph, do you have any?
I have a couple of comments. One, for that radio, I mentioned to you that the one that you mentioned, the GXT 1000G, is a GMRS radio. It's not an FRS radio. So you need a license for that one. And there is no GXT 1000 new for Midland anymore that is an FRS radio. So that information that you had there was a bit out of date. Another,
because they sent us the radios to test.
Yeah, that was probably a while ago. I don't think they are current anymore. And another thing regarding the T200s, I would not necessarily recommend them because they do not have a power button. You have to press the menu button to turn them on and off, and it's very easy to get into the volume or the channel and accidentally change the channel or the volume on these radios. I have a T2800 and it's happened to me a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation would be to spend a few bucks more and get a T402. That one has a power button that also then works as volume, so you don't interfere with the channel setting that easily.
Okay. Yeah, we were trying to find a low price point for the T200 series to recommend as a low price point. So that's why we went with the T200, even if it has that limitation. All right, James.
Yeah, it took me a moment to find the mute button. Hi, Patrick. Good to see you again. I have can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I have three quick questions. If we're pressed for time, I could just stick to two quick questions. My first, and these questions are in regards to the licensing process. Recently, I went to the FCC. Well, whatever that particular site and page was to register to get a license for the GMRS radio license. And I went through the first couple of questions. I sort of got stuck. The first couple were just put in my name and so forth. Then there was a question asking if I'm guessing all of us here at CERT who would do this are part of a corporation, a company, an individual, or a group. I think the group might have been referring to some kind of community, whatever. Anyway, on that day, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, I can't remember. I selected the individual option to the license process, and then it forwarded me to the next two or three questions, and then I got stuck. It asked me for something that I just was not. I don't know how to answer. It wasn't something I could answer. It was a question where like I would need to have been part of a business or something. And so I backtracked, going back to the option where I was to select that I'm getting a license as an individual. I just started over again from that. And again, it took me to a place where it wanted that my employer and business and all kinds of other questions. And so anyway, I realized I just wasn't doing the process right. Do you have any suggestions for people like myself for first time as an individual getting a GMRS license, that process? Are there questions that we may get stuck on?
I don't remember any gotchas, but it's been a few years since I got my GMRS license. Understand that GMRS is really meant for, the original intent was for farms. So family-run farm where you've got, husband, wife, kids, grandparents, aunts and uncles all working the farm under one license. That's where that was the point of it. Or you're going to go to Disneyland or something, or on a cruise, and you want to have, all of your family members using that radio, same higher power. So that's why they're asking about groups or companies or something like that. And sometimes they're grandfathered in. There's a whole history to the GMRS license. So unfortunately, I haven't gone through the process of getting a call sign in a while, so I can't tell you any of the gotchas that you're experiencing.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, they were just on that particular day. I was pressed for time. I getting ready for work and so forth. I thought it would just take like 5 or 10 minutes. When I realized it was going to take more time, I sort of panicked and I didn't know anyway. So I'm going to try again in a couple of days. Real quickly, do you know if the cost is still $35? The cost for the FCC license?
I believe that's what it is now.
Okay, good to know. Okay, that's those are my two questions.
All right.
Patrick,
Erica.
this is Marilyn Peters.
Hi, Marilyn.
I got my GMR license in 2020, and it was $70, 70. And it says on my paperwork, domestic individual registration. I don't know what that means, but anyway.
It means that you're a citizen of the United States and you're an individual.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You're a foreign national. You can still register for a GMRS license, but it's under a foreign national.
Oh, I was trying to help the other gentleman out who was having some difficulty with his application. I didn't.
Okay. Thanks, Marilyn.
Mm-hmm.
Erica.
Hi. So I think I have the same question that this other woman asked. I primarily took the CERT training course because I live in a community of maybe 240 houses. And I wanted to be able to help my community. And I'm the only one in my community that is CERT trained. So my call sign is CERT 63 MAST 1. So if hypothetically we had an earthquake and my neighbor around the corner got really hurt, I'm going to get on and say this is CERT 63 Mass 1, but then there's not going to be a staging group because there's nobody in my area that even does CERT. So what do I do? I mean, like, what do you do if you're alone?
Recruit able-bodied people that you can have with you. But this is where trying to get your neighbors involved, it's critical. And sometimes you're going to be in the wrong community. You're going to be in the wrong neighborhood, and no one wants to think about disaster preparedness. And that's a hard reality. And unfortunately, many of us deal with that. And the people who have these groups really are fortunate because there's a core group that got things up and running, and they've been able to convince their neighbors, and they're just in the right place at the right time to start building the team. I would reach out to your CERT battalion coordinator. Do you know who that is?
I was just going to ask you, I don't remember who he is.
Okay. Reach out to him and say, hey, I want to get a team going. What can we do to get things started? And maybe talk to the neighborhood council.
What's his name? Who's my battalion coordinator?
Which battalion are you in?
I'm 63.
That's your fire station.
Yeah, Mass 1. I don't know anything.
Patrick,
Hey, Chen.
I'm here. I think if I remember 63, I believe that is in Judy Hewlett.
You broke up there, but you said it's Battalion 9, Judy Hewlett.
Oh, okay. Everybody's correcting me. It's Battalion 4, so that would be Jose. Whoopsie.
Okay. Well,
but it is Jose.
So Erica, we'll put you in touch with Jose Mortaya, and he's a new battalion coordinator, but he's very eager. And Chin unfortunately lost him over to West Bureau, but he's gonna be a great asset for you.
Okay, so is he going to reach out to me, or do I need to reach out to him?
Let me make a note. Can you do me a favor and email me? And again, I put my email up on the slide as well in the chat, patrick@disasterprep.org, and then I can put you two in touch with each other.
Okay, so I'm sending it to Patrick at Disaster. Okay, because just to tell you this last thing, when you say to try and get more people involved, I mean, I live in a neighborhood where we actually have an emergency prepared council. I mean, and trying to get these emergency preparedness groups together, and the police department has come, the fire department has come to talk to everybody. And I used to be part of it, and I stepped down because I just lost patience with asking, different homeowners, down the road, have you done anything that the fire department has told you to do? Do you have extra water? Do you have anything? And everybody's like, no, I know I have to do this. And, I walked away and I said, you know what? I'm stepping down from emergency preparedness because I'm not these people's mother. I mean, I'm originally from New York. So when I moved out to Los Angeles, I mean, I take it much more seriously, where people who've grown up here, like, they think it's just a big joke. And so, trying to get people on board, we can't even get people to get the supplies that the fire department is recommending. And that takes up such a small amount of space, for people that own houses. So, I mean, yeah, I'll hopefully talk to Jose and, get his opinion on all of this. Maybe I can host another meeting and he can come and, maybe it'll, bring some interest to these people, but they're just, I hate to say I'm a proactive person, and the people that I'm dealing with, they're all reactive. Like, they'll deal with this when it's after they have no water, and do you know what I mean?
The harsh reality is that you're coming from New York, you get hurricanes, you get blizzards, you get snowstorms, you get power outages that make sure you have to walk home instead of taking the subway. The last regional disaster in Los Angeles was the 1938 flood. West Bureau, not really affected by Northridge earthquake. So the people here, unfortunately, are complacent because we don't get disasters in Southern California.
Correct.
We're vulnerable to them, And it takes a lot of convincing, especially the younger people, to convince people that, hey, I know you're busy. I know you've got kids and soccer practice and all that, but think about, what happens if the earth shakes and the power's out and your cell phone doesn't work? Who are you going to, get help from? How are you going to make sure that your kids make it home from soccer practice? It's an uphill battle, but the fact that you're here, the fact that you want to do this, let me put you in touch with Jose and let's see what we can make happen. And this is why we created the neighborhood team program, why Chin and I are pushing so hard to build structure into this so that Jose doesn't have to figure out, I just became the battalion 4 coordinator. I don't know what to do. How do I even get started? Where you don't have to go, I want to get my neighborhood prepared, but how do I get started? What do I have to do? We're building the support structure to help you. So thank you for coming. Thank you for wanting to be here. Thank you for being frustrated. Reach out to me and let's make something happen.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Oh, you said Fire Station 63?
Yes.
That's Venice.
Yes.
We actually have a group in Venice, a very active group. So we'll definitely get you in touch with them, and what they've learned, hopefully we can extend into your neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm where I live is a little bit more tucked away, where some of these people in Venice might not even know that there are houses where I live. So yeah, I mean, whoever I can talk to, because just the last thing is that I need to try to do this in a way, like when I first started, the emergency preparedness, people looked at me as like I'm an alarmist. And, but about a week or two ago, we had a major power outage in our neighborhood. And I happen to have a generator, again, because I'm from New York and, wanted to make sure that I was set up in the event that we had a major event. And, I think right now is the best time, to talk to somebody, because when we had the power outage, it was for 13 hours. And I was the only one in the neighborhood. My house was glowing in the dark and everybody else was complaining and calling me and saying, can I come and charge my phone? And it's a perfect, time to say to people, hey, you saw that I can survive through all of this, but we need to talk about what you guys are going to do, because you're not all coming here. I know that sounds really mean, but.
No, it's fair enough. You don't want everybody there because they'll eat through your supplies and then you have nothing.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, at the beginning of COVID, we saw this. We saw what happened when people weren't prepared. Suddenly they couldn't get toilet paper and water.
Yes.
And there, fist fights and, people hoarding and selling at, $20 for a bottle of water. And that's the reality of things. Deborah, go ahead.
Okay. I have two questions. First of all, good evening. I have two questions. I just want to be clear. So you can have an incident number, but it cannot require a response?
Generally, I would say, can we do something about it? And if the answer is yes, give it an incident number. If no, then it's questionable if it needs an incident number. It's a gray area.
Okay, so say there's a car accident. Well, no, that's not a good example. But if you're not going to send a response team to the incident, then you really don't need an incident number, or you do, just for reference sake?
So if it's like situational awareness, you've got an earthquake, or I'm sorry, a tree that's fallen and no injuries, no damage. You might let staging know about the situational awareness, but you're not going to get an incident number. You shouldn't get an incident number for it. There's nothing to do, no injuries, no damage, no incident.
Okay. I don't know. I was moving around and maybe I didn't hear it right and about the incident numbers. Okay, so my next question, trying to be clear. So you were talking about incident response team, break-off teams. And you, if I'm not mistaken, you said 2 people can break off or 3 people can break off.
So a pair would break off. So you have an incident response team. It has a team leader, radio operator, scribe, and 2 responder pairs. One of the responder pairs can break off if they have communications.
So then they'll be off on their own with, I mean, it'll be maybe they'll turn into a scribe and a radio operator, and they'll be on their own. They won't have a leader or anything like that.
They're investigating an issue. It's complicated, but it's so somebody's asking for help as you're deploying to an actual incident, and you don't want to say, we can't help you. It's go find out what's going on. Let us know. You're still part of our team. You're still part of Echo team, but we're designating you Echo 2, and you're communicating back to Echo 1 or Echo team, and our scribe and radio operator who you're talking to as part of our team. You're still part of Echo team.
Okay, so the break-off team is not going to really respond to the incident, meaning help, or they're just going to go get information, is what you're saying. I'm just trying to be clear. That's all. I'm sorry.
They're a responder pair, so if they can help, they can help. If they can't, it's flexibility, it's capability. You know, you might get there and your pair goes, nope, that is not something we're prepared to do. But we're going to report it to our radio operator, who can then report it to staging and maybe get a full team out there.
Okay, and so and in these teams, when a team goes out, they're given a radio, but for this to happen, then other members in the team have to have a radio.
Yeah, so if they've got FRS, a radio, the pair has an FRS radio, and the team has an FRS radio, and you can talk to each other.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
Deborah is actually putting together the October 22nd Grayburn exercise. This is the one I mentioned earlier that we had to postpone from September. And this is where we're putting everything together. So if you want to come out and see this in action, you want to participate, this is going to be a great exercise to join. I just put the information in the chat. October 22nd, it's Saturday, 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. In the Grayburn neighborhood of Mid-City, kind of in the middle of Los Angeles. And there's the link right there. Oh, that is the wrong one. Hold on. Don't go to that link. Should be not dash postponed at the end. Should just be ntp-la-ssos 2022.eventbrite.com. All right, Erica.
Okay, so another question, because, you know, I am a realist. That CERT is great if there is a situation that doesn't involve an entire, like a big area, and you can get, you know, like a staging group to one specific area. However, again, you know, I signed up for CERT in the event that there's a big catastrophe like an earthquake. And if there's an earthquake in Venice, it's going to be everywhere else. So what makes it where they're going to come and stage with me when they're trying to help their neighbors? So that's like always my big question. Like, you know, more than likely, if there's a big earthquake, everybody's going to be on their own. And that's what I want to know. How do I help my neighbors if there's nobody to come and help me?
So it's a different perspective. It's not where are they going to stage with me? It's you've talked to your neighbors and Jose and us, and we said, okay, We found a location that will be the staging area. It's going to be this house of worship, or it's going to be this cafe in the back of this cafe. They said that they're going to be our staging area, and we have an MOU with them. Everybody who's part of this team go there. Doesn't matter if you have radio communication, doesn't matter if you're next door neighbors or if you're several blocks away. Everybody go and meet there. And then once you see who shows up, we organize a response, and then we go help our neighbors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, partially. Partially, because, I'm thinking that, I have neighbors that are, some of them, I'm very good friends with them all, but they're a lot older. And so I'm asking myself if there's like a major situation, am I going to a staging area, or am I going door to door? Because I know more people in this neighborhood than most of the people, because I sit on the board of my HOA, and a lot of people kind of depend on me here, which is bizarre. And so if there was like a major earthquake, I can't see myself, getting in my car and driving somewhere. Like, my first thought would be, let me go check on this one, and this one, like everybody on my block before I do anything else, just to make sure that they're all safe. And then I would continue to every other house. I don't know if I would feel comfortable leaving my neighborhood to go to a staging area, and then they tell me that we're going to go to some other part of Venice. I'd be like, no, I'm going home.
Your local staging area, as in it's in your neighborhood. But we actually talk about the first hour is the Ryland Red Your LA neighborhood organization portion of it. So exactly right. During that first hour, you're checking on your immediate neighbors. You're finding out how bad it is.
Right.
And then at hour 2, you realize, okay, we need to set up a neighborhood response. It's bigger than our block. It's going to be, the 10 block area that we live in. That's our neighborhood. And the staging area is within walking distance. And we are responding to our neighborhood, not someone else's neighborhood. You're not going to be driving to another part of the city, another part of Venice. You're in your own neighborhood, your own immediate neighborhood.
Okay. And I'll talk to Jose about that as well.
Yeah. And you can talk to me offline as well. And we can flesh out a lot of this stuff. And it's designed to be flexible and expandable and customizable.
Good.
David.
Okay, hi. Patrick, good to see you. Thank you very much. I saw you over at the Sherman Oaks drill. This is only a drill, which was kind of fun. And also just told the story that radio is heard by everybody, so one would never know if on that radio somebody heard those rather frantic practice calls of decapitations and such, and had cars going off of bridges. What I've always kind of wondered about now is, since that staging area is a staging area now, and I'm not far, well, I'm in Sherman Oaks, when will I know? And I talked to Christy about this just the other day at the Sunday meeting. When are we going to know where my neighborhood staging area is? I'm near Moore Park and Van Nuys in Battalion 10, Station 88. So would it be at the station that's not walking distance?
This is why every neighborhood has to have their own staging area. The staging area's effective range is about half a mile. So you're within half a mile of your staging area, you have a staging area, you're better than 99% of the city at this point.
Well, no, I don't. So that's what I'm saying.
You're in the other 99% of the city, which is
why always been part of the 99%.
Yeah. So this is why we need you to work with Christy and figure out where we can get a staging area. It's Chin and I can't find your staging area for you. Christy lives in Sherman Oaks. But she should be working with you, and then we come in to support you on the back end. You say, hey, this is how it's worked for the 5 staging areas we have in place right now, and the several more that are slated and being worked on. It's someone from the community has said, hey, I talked to so-and-so at this location, told them about what we're trying to do, and they're interested in being the staging area. And then so I come in, I talk to them, we get an MOU in place, And then we talk to the neighborhood council and find a staging area kit to go there. And all in the meantime, we're working through with the battalion coordinators, the bureau coordinators who are working with you and setting up this team.
So it's a work in progress is the short answer?
It is a work in progress. It will always be a work in progress. We will never be complete with this project. It is aspirational.
Right.
But it is practical, and we have, like I said, we have 5 staging areas in place right now throughout the city of Los Angeles, and we started 2 years ago. It's a lot of work. We have several more. We have funding for a few more staging areas throughout the city, and we have a couple locations. LAPD Pacific Division was mentioned earlier in this training, that we just need to finish making the agreements, getting funding for, and putting in place.
Well, I understand. And thank you, Patrick. Very informative talk. And I just have kind of an allied question concerning the radios. FRS versus the one with the G. I am also a boater, and I'm wondering if it's better to get the more powerful one with the license. I mean, I used to be an FM broadcaster, so I had an FCC license, but I know there's a test involved, and it's easy to do. But is that a better suggestion because of the repeaters and just being able to be in touch with a greater citywide network?
Yeah. If there is a GMRS repeater in your area, if you're talking about a repeater that's in another part of the city that the rest of your team can't talk to, it doesn't really help you.
Yeah.
Just think local first, but then increase your capabilities. So as long as you can talk to your local team and then you can talk to a larger group with a second radio, you're able to do some good. And if that group has the capability of getting you help, then great.
Well, I was also thinking about my children if I were to get, because one's in downtown and one's over in the Fairfax district. So that would not be a small area. And if there was a way just to be able to, with the complete loss of cell towers and such and so forth, where that is the only way to get through. I mean, we could have a dedicated channel, something like that. So I was thinking that might be the way to go.
Yeah, there's no such thing as really dedicated channels. Even with our commercial licenses, we have, they're shared.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, thank you. I don't want to take enough time from somebody else, but thank you again, Patrick, for your sharing.
And if you have any questions, you can always email me and we can talk offline about it.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Ralph.
I just want to mention to David, he mentioned that he wants to use it on a boat. This is something that the FCC actually does not allow. You can have an GMS radio in a vehicle, a car, but not on a boat or an aircraft.
Aha. Thank you.
This is something that they explicitly rule out. And the problem with the repeater is you need to have access to the repeaters. You need to sign up for them. There are very few open repeaters where you just need to have the tone, because there's a certain protocol how you have to connect to the repeater that it then retransmit your signal. And there are very few repeaters actually here or GMS repeaters in the urban LA area, here in the LA basin. They would have to be on the Santa Monica Mountains, so in Hollywood or Griffith Park, Elysian Park, or somewhere in Baldwin Hills on the hill, that you get actually any further transmission than, because you have a lot of high-rise buildings and so forth. You won't get more than maybe a mile and a half or 2 of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. For your boat, if you're talking boat to boat, you'd be using the marine frequencies, which are VHF. But I didn't know about that. You couldn't use GMRS on a boat. So I don't know if there's a good way to bridge when you're on a boat talking to someone who's landlocked, because you're not allowed to use marine frequencies on if you're on the inland.
Okay.
My hand keeps.
Yeah, ham actually. Ham would be ham would give you the capability. You can use ham on a boat. You can have a ham radio on your boat, and you can talk to someone who's inland. And there's ham repeaters out there too.
Can I ask a question? My hand keeps disappearing for some reason.
Who is this, Robert?
Yes, sir. Neighborhood councils as far as an organized group. I mean,
Robert, you're breaking up. I heard neighborhood councils and organized group.
yes. All right. I
lost you
said,
again,
do
Robert.
you recommend? I'm trying. Somebody keep recommend them.
Robert, can you post ask your question in the chat and I can answer it?
Okay.
Okay. In terms of neighborhood councils,
Somebody keeps sticking my hand down.
I'm not. So in terms
Yeah,
of
he's
neighborhood
using
councils,
the wave hand instead of the raised hand. That happened to me earlier because I had it on the Windows screen. I didn't see the raised hand. They're two separate icons.
Yeah.
And the raise hand at the bottom of that.
Yeah, so if you go to reactions, there's the clap, which is temporary, and then raise hand separately. All right. In terms of neighborhood councils, we work with neighborhood councils. They're the ones who have funded all the staging area kits throughout the city so far. So definitely, we're happy to work with you, but we need you to interact with your neighborhood council, bring us in. We can't, as coordinators, as even NTP, we don't have the resources and time to initiate with all 99 neighborhood councils. We need you to be the liaison, and you talk to your neighborhood council, and we're going to support you and back you, and then we can come in and request a neighborhood purpose grant to get the staging area kit funded. James, go ahead.
Yes, my question is regards to once we have radios and participate in radio check-ins and so forth, as I have been for, I don't know, a couple of months now. Recently, my experiences are for the some of the radio check-ins is I understand that someone will clear the channel, and however, for a couple of weeks now, people have been jumping and stepping on us, and it makes it different channels, which turned out to be successful. We could have our radio check-in free of people stepping on us. But do you have any suggestions how to go about? Should we report these people who step in during a cleared channel exercise during a radio check-in?
Which are you using, FRS?
Yes.
FRS, everyone is allowed to use it equally. So you have no legitimate capability to kick other people off of FRS. They can be polite, you can ask them, and they can be polite and do so, or they can be jerks and tell you to pound sand. The FCC doesn't care.
Okay, FCC doesn't care. I get that.
It's why CB is such a free-for-all. FRS is almost there. And so reason why we went with commercial radios over FRS, because we've had issues in the past with FRS. We used to do a net on a repeater in Monterey Hills, and then someone with a more powerful repeater came up on the same channel. They talk 24/7, and they have more power than we do. And they don't care about the language they use. They're not identifying call signs. And then they heard they were looking for me, and I stopped using that repeater. So
that's kind of scary. Well,
yeah.
Good reason to not use names. Call signs are important.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess that was my question. While we were talking, something else came to my mind. what was it? Well, anyway, so some of the experiences with these people stepping in on our radio check-ins is would go we would go from digital to analog, analog over to digital to simplex, and they were still there, and it's just it's getting kind of annoying. But I was just asking that question because with my work, we as a security guard, we have our radios are never stepped on. I don't talk to our logistics guys to say like, hey, how come we never get stepped on, but on this cert program we get stepped on. And so I don't know the logistics behind it, but we never had this problem with our radios at work. And sometimes when I'm recently I was at the beach a couple times and talking to lifeguards, and they have like special channels too where no one will step on them. Are those is that like a commercial? Do the lifeguards and or private businesses, security guard companies have?
Yeah, you probably have business band for your security company. You're using PL tones, so even if they were shared, you're not hearing other people, and then you're close enough that your communication works internally. With that, for us, we generally recommend that you do not use PL tones because you can't hear when other people are talking. That's the going theory, and it's too easy to misconfigure. Lifeguards, they're public safety. They're using public safety frequencies that are dedicated to their department. So lifeguards are the only ones on their lifeguard frequencies and channels, and that's because they have the public safety radios.
Trunked radio, trunked radio, guys.
Yeah, that's also expensive. So any other questions? We're past 9 o'clock. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, participating tonight. Any other questions before we let you all go? All right. Everybody have a good night. And oh, Deborah.
Okay, real quick, everyone. I just want to say that you've learned a lot from Patrick's classes, but when you go out to a drill, you really get firsthand experience. And I'm saying this because I've gone to other drills and I've learned a lot. I want to tell everyone that the drill that we're having on October 22nd is kind of coinciding with the National Shakeout that will be October 20th. But what we'll do in these drills is what Patrick has basically described this evening, how you set up your staging area, you go into your disaster assessment teams, and then you have your incident response teams. You go out and you assess, you find incidents, you report back by radio, you'll have injuries. So a lot of things will be going on, and you'll learn a lot from these drills, even if it's one thing that you can take back to your neighborhood, your community. You'll have something that you can turn to that can help you in the event of disaster. That's all. Thank you, Patrick, for that time.
Thank you, Deborah. And I did I did post the Eventbrite. So if you're interested in attending the drill on the 22nd, go ahead and sign up on the Eventbrite for more information. I'll post it again right now. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me and we can talk offline. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.